Right. Welcome, Joyce. Joyce, welcome.
Peace and blessings.
Good morning,
Welcome.
everybody.
Good morning. Let's see what else do we have here? We have Adam and Stacy and Cynthia. Cynthia, wow, you got up early.
Yeah.
Cynthia's in Oregon, so that's what time is it there now? 4 o'clock. Yes, Afua, welcome.
Thank
T. Willis,
you.
welcome. Ambibola, Abimbola, sorry.
Peace and blessings. Peace, Shawnee.
Hey, Abimbola. It's good to see you or hear you.
Thank you.
And again, welcome to those in the Facebook community. I can't see you, but I can feel you. And again, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to have answered or shared, make sure you put it in the chat. And then our admin can get it to me and we can address it appropriately. Welcome on this Groundhog's Day to session 253. I think the last time I was here was 224. Y'all been busy.
Peace and blessing, family. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We have John Carl as our admin and Charmaine as our Facebook admin. Shawnee's our executive producer today. So we're all here ready to serve and uplift you this morning. Welcome, Marie. Who else do we have? And Teresa Nefertiti. Welcome.
Good morning.
Moto, welcome. Marie and Sharina, welcome.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, we're learning, discerning. We're striving. Together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together.
Welcome to session 253. I'm Dr. Jewa Lea, and I am going to be speaking on what you don't know about your heart may be killing your life. I am a mastery coach, author, and mind-body medicine practitioner. And so I wrote a book called Core Perfectum, What You Don't Know About Your Heart May Be Killing Your Life. And I'll be taking material from that book in this session. So what do you know about your heart? I'll take some answers from the people in the audience. I know that I've spoken here before, so you may have some ideas about that. So can you go to the community and let's take some answers as to what they know about their heart.
All right, let's give folks a little bit of time to let the brains marinate.
I didn't give them enough of a warm up.
Yes.
I
So
just jumped right in.
that's all good. It's all good. We are jump right in type of people. So let me invite who I see at the top, Friye, and also Abimbola to answer, and then that'll prime the pump, and then we'll see from if we can hear from other people. So I'm inviting Abimbola and Friye to unmute if you're willing. There you go.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a huge organ that filtrates many things and helps us to maintain our health.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that is true.
All right, let me see. There's our other sister. Go ahead.
Peace and blessings. Your heart, of course, is an organ, but it's also an organ that controls your body and your mind. Like right now, my heart is heavy because I lost a dear friend. So my heart is heavy. So
Yes,
that's my answer.
my condolences on your loss.
Thank you.
And your heart is instrumental in how you feel and how you run, how your body runs on a physical as well as a metaphysical way. And we'll speak on that as we go on through this presentation. Does anyone else have anything about what they know about their heart?
Yeah, so I'm going to invite, since our sister is wide awake in the wee hours, Cynthia Peel, hear what she has to say about the heart. So, Cynthia, I'm sending in a request to unmute. I'm not sure if you're receiving it. There we go. So, what's your share about the heart?
Well, the heart is definitely running one's life mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So, why am I so hyped up on the heart? I wrote about the heart by accident. Well, I guess there are no accidents. I'm trained as a chiropractor and I do mind body medicine as the technique that I offer in my practice. And the technique looks at emotional memory and how emotional memory has an impact on your health and breaks those emotional patterns so that your body can heal itself. And in the conversation of doing my practice and then having a deeper conversation with my spiritual community, I realized that I did not know a lot about the heart. I knew about it from a physiological perspective, an anatomical perspective, but as far as a metaphysical, sacred geometry, energetic perspective, I knew very little. So I ended up writing this book, Core Perfectum. And so with this morning, what I will be sharing is some of my findings from that book while putting together this book. So if we can go to the next slide, that'd be great, John Carl. Thank you. So even though we're going through this pandemic right now with COVID-19, heart disease is known as the silent pandemic. It's the #1 killer in the US and in the Western world. Every 34 seconds, someone is dying from heart disease. So last year, I think the numbers were 300 and some thousand people died from COVID-19, but 500 and some thousand people died from heart disease last year. So even though COVID-19 is in the forefront of our thoughts and minds, heart disease is still playing this huge role in disease process in our lives. So much so that 48% of African American women over the age of 20 have symptoms of heart disease, and 46% of African American men have symptoms, signs and symptoms of heart disease over the age of 20. And I thought that the age 20 was really incredible, that at such a young age that symptoms and signs of heart disease are already present and can be accounted for in such a young population. So it just shows how early heart disease is starting in our lives. And I have a theory about why that is. And we'll go into that as we have this discussion. Next slide, please. So what makes the heart so special? So we've talked about, that it runs things, and it's an organ that does a lot of stuff for the body. But I'm going to go and highlight some things on a physical and metaphysical level that makes the heart so special. Next slide, please. So the heart is not a pump. And I know that's the first thing that most people think about when they think about the heart, because the heart is helping facilitate the movement of blood through the body, but it's actually not a pump. Physiologically, it's almost impossible for it to be a pump. The reason being is that the heart is around the size of your fist and sits on the left-hand side of your chest. At the base of it, it's flat, but at the apex, at the bottom, is very, very thin, that you could punch a hole through it with your finger. Is very thin. So the viscosity of blood and the amount of resistance that is present in our arteries and veins would make it almost impossible for the amount of force that is needed to pump blood. So something else is going on other than pumping action. And we'll talk about that. It starts out as a straight tube, a straight arterial tube in the fetus. And then it starts twisting and turning and forms this entity that we know as the heart. It starts twisting and turning at day 21 of fetal development, and then completes all that twisting and turning by day 49. So a 28-day cycle, a whole lunar cycle, is necessary for the heart to form in the fetus. It is a gland. It does produce a couple of hormones. One is oxytocin, which is the love hormone. It's a bonding hormone. It's excreted when mothers breastfeed their children. And then also there's another hormone that helps regulate blood volume. And so it works hand in hand with the kidneys. It sends signals to the kidney through this hormone to regulate the amount of water that is in the mixture of blood. So blood volume is regulated by the heart as well. It's a decision maker. Now, if I were to tell you what's more important, your brain or your heart, because we're thinking beings and we're using our minds our thought processes all the time, there's a tendency to think that the brain is more important. And it is important. It provides electrical impulses to the body. It directs how things are operating. It's the electrical power, kind of powerhouse of the body. But the heart is actually more powerful electromagnetically and as far as electrical impulses than the brain. And there are more connections going from the heart to the brain than vice versa. So there's more communications going from the heart to the brain. So the heart is actually informing the brain what to do, not vice versa. So, I always say, if you're brain dead, you still, are alive to a certain extent. But if your heart dead, you're dead. So the heart is in the slave master dynamic. The heart would be known as the master and the brain known as the slave. The heart is the sun, and the brain would be considered the moon that is actually reflecting the desires of the heart. Also, the heart is a vortex accelerator, decelerator. Now, this is what is happening with the movement of blood. Our blood actually moves in a vortex. It's a spinning kind of action. And the heart actually helps decelerate that vortex and then redirects it and accelerates it out of the body. And it does it twice. It captures it in the right side of the heart, through the right atrium and the right ventricle, and then it sends the blood to the lungs, and then that filtered blood, richly oxygenated blood, goes back into the heart from the lungs, and then the left side of the heart propels that blood through the aorta to the rest of the body. The heart is designed to perpetuate this vortex motion. If we think of vortexes, if you think of how vortexes move, they have a spinning motion. Our galaxy is a vortex. Super Bowl Sunday is coming this week. And if you think about a good quarterback who passes the ball really well, you look at the spin of the ball that as they throw it, guys know this, and women too, because I, pretty good at throwing a football. And one of the first things that I learned was taught was that you want to have a good tight spiral on your ball when you're throwing it. That way you can have greater speed and accuracy. And so the heart is helping the blood move with speed and accuracy through the body with this vortex deceleration and acceleration. Also, the heart is a great electromagnetic field generator. It is the powerhouse of the body. You can feel the impulses of your heart on any part of your body through an EKG. And the field that the heart produces can extend out to 9 feet. And it is constantly extending and contracting with our emotions. And so the heart is doing a whole lot in maintaining our auric field, our electromagnetic field, how we sense the world, how we're vibing with other people, is done with the heart and through this electromagnetic field that is produced by the heart. And then finally, the heart is the physical manifestation of universal formative forces. So that's the mouthful. So basically what it's saying is that whatever you can think about, you can bring about. You can physically manifest, and that process is actually taking place through your heart. Even though we think we're thinking through our brains, it's actually taking place through our hearts. Any questions or comments on anything that I've covered so far? I know I've covered quite a bit. I'm going to open the floor to any input or any insight that you may have gained so far.
Okay. So asking the community if you would raise your hand or say in the chat, because folks were listening intently, so there wasn't that much chat response. But Teresa has her hand up, so if you could unmute to make your comment or ask your question.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much, young lady. I've actually been wearing a lot of green since you were on the show, and it's actually become like my signature color. I don't care what, excuse me, I don't care what I have on. I have something green, and so I've been, telling them, like keeping my heart chakra, healing.
Yeah.
What you're saying to me seems like if my heart is not right, then my life can't be right. So one of the things that I need to do is working on getting my heart healed so I can operate to my fullest point. And I just want to thank you for having such a great revelation with what you're telling us. And
Thank you.
complete. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, last time I was on, I was telling people that, about green and how the heart is really associated with the color green. Now, mass marketing and everybody else will tell you red. And I think it has something to do with the blood and maybe a little bit with how the heart looks. It's kind of a maroon kind of color. But energetically, the heart is at the level of 4 of the 7 main chakras, which is associated with the color green. And that green has a certain frequencies. Green vibrates at a higher frequency than the color red. Um, if you think about the color red, it brings up different feelings than the color green. And so when you are thinking about the heart in this National Heart Month, since February is National Heart Month, start thinking about green. Even though you're going to see a lot of red, be on the inside secret of, or start sharing that green is the real color to share about the heart. So I just want to ask, when you think about red as opposed to green, what feelings come up for you in the thought about red, or the awareness to the color red as opposed to the awareness to the color green? I just want to get some input on that before I move on.
I'll start us off. I'm on two sides in reference to the color red. So red denotes intensity. So if I think about the heart, I think about it beating really fast and me being rageful or anxious. So I think about that. And I had not considered this before until you put the question out here. Um, and red as a correlate to the heart um, means movement or action. And I was saying on the call, in the briefing, the pre-preparation, that I have a lot to do. So sometimes red is not the color to slow down. But when I think about green, and I intuitively put on green, I was not thinking about what you told us, Jewa. So that's all connection. I love that when the spirit speaks on my behalf. But the green, I think about tranquility. I think about um, being generative, creating, but not with that force, but like this light, natural, organic creativity. And once again, I had not considered it until you asked the question and had me compare and contrast. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, green is a very tranquil, nurturing kind of color. We also have green says it represents money. Denise says it represents nature. Afua says it's leverage. Okay. Yeah. So it has a different vibe, and it should, because um, John Carl says he thinks of growth or flow. And yeah, so when we think of red, it's a passionate color. You can't really wear red. I mean, when you want to be saucy and spicy, you put on a red dress. you know, when you want to be, more laid back and um, um, I guess more uplifting, I guess tranquil, but uplifting. It's a softer kind of vibe. Green is the color. I mean, going out in nature and just being surrounded by greenery. Is it more grounding but uplifting kind of color, and it makes sense that it would be uh, the intersection of those two things, grounding and uplifting, because the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra, is the intersection of physicality and spirituality. And so I think green reflects that color, the physical nature of nature itself, and then how it feels uplifted. How's an uplifting feeling as well. So yes. Anything else? Anyone else have a comment before we go on?
Okay, let's.
Purple had their hand raised.
Okay, wonderful.
Good morning, Dr. Jewa. Welcome back. You may have mentioned this. I'm sure you did before, but I don't remember. How did we come to learn the color red? Like, where did that misinformation happen, if you know?
I don't know, but my guess would be that, since blood looks like it's red on the outside of our body, and then when you dissect the heart, it has this maroonish kind of color. a reddish kind of color. The associated may have taken place with that. That's just a guess. Have no idea if that's actually what's going on or not.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. So the heart, on a metaphysical level, is known as the green door. We've spoken of green here. It's the seat to the soul. It's the Christ seat. It's represented by the fourth chakra. There's a chakra system along the spine. With at the base of the chakra, at the bottom of the pelvis, is the color red. That's known as the base chakra, root chakra. And then above that, right below the navel, is the sacral chakra. It's denoted by the color orange. Above that is the solar plexus chakra, right below the ribs, and that's yellow. And then the fourth chakra is the heart chakra, right in the center of the chest. And that is the gateway to the higher chakras, which is 5, 6, and 7. 5 being the throat chakra, indicated by the color blue, the third eye, number 6, and then the crown chakra, number 7. So smack dab in the middle of this is the fourth chakra, where our heart is. And it is actually the intersection of physical and spiritual natures. And so the heart is more than what we've been taught. It is more than a pump. It's actually not a pump, so we've covered that already. But it's doing a whole lot more unseen than seen. And I believe in my thesis about why heart disease is so prevalent is that we are totally ignorant to the fact of what our heart is doing for us on a moment-to-moment basis, and not tapping into that energy, or acknowledging that energy. And so we're lopsided. We're more physically oriented, as opposed to being a balance of physical and spiritual. And so we have to up our spiritual game, in order to combat, or not even combat, because it's not even a fight. It's just basically an acknowledgement. So we have to acknowledge our spiritual selves in order to bring balance to ourselves. And as a result of that, heart disease will have no reason for being. So there's no fight in this. It's just purely an acknowledgement, never a fight, always an acknowledgement. Any questions or comments before I move on? All right. So next slide is the green door. Green door is, I love this picture. This is the cover of my book. This is the picture on the cover of my book, Core Perfectum. You can find it on Amazon and paperback or ebook. And I love this because, one, it's green and it's beautiful, and it encompasses, the nature of the heart. It's actually the doorway to our higher realms. Until you go through this door, there's no way of really having a spiritual nature. You really have to go through your heart to get to these upper realms. There's no short circuiting it. And so if we think about how emotion, and our feelings, and all the things that we relate to our heart. Someone, I think Ambibola was saying that her heart is heavy because she lost a friend. And that heaviness can wreak havoc on our health if not addressed, if it goes on for a long time. So we wear a lot of things on our heart. And if you think about how we relate to our hearts, we are doing it subconsciously most of the time without really realizing it. So when you point to yourself, you don't point to your head, you point to your chest, you point to your heart. When you say pledge an allegiance, you put your hand over your heart. When we were kids, you crossed your heart and hoped to die. And there are a lot of sayings that we have around the heart. So I'd like for you to share with the community some of the sayings that you are familiar with in reference to the heart. So we have, and that was heartfelt. Yes. Carolyn Amal says, heartfelt. My heart wasn't in it. Exactly. Having a heart of stone. I mean, being cold-hearted. Someone this morning was saying their heart was heavy. Any other sayings around the heart? Heavy heart, yes. Heart-to-heart communication. Let's have the heart-to-heart. Home is where the heart is. My heart bleeds for you. The journey from the head to the heart is the longest. Lots of sayings, lots of identification with the heart, conscious and subconscious. And I think there's no accident with that, because we are heartfelt beings. Cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye, yes. Heart of gold, yes. Lots of sayings around the heart. And so the fact that we acknowledge the heart in a certain way, but really have this silent pandemic of heart disease, I think is really interesting. Yeah, blame it on my head, not my heart. So we intuitively know that our heart is the seat of ourselves, but managing it on a day-to-day basis and being in a relationship to it on a day-to-day basis, I think has become a challenge, because we basically have put our focus outward. We're concerned about survival. We're concerned about material things. See, Nija says a hopeful heart. Yes. So heartless. Yes. So when we take our focus from the outside, the material things, we're worried about outward things, material things, how much security we have. And I think that's knocked us off balance. We're more physically oriented as opposed to being in communication spiritually, and even acknowledging our own divinity, I think, is the key thing that is leading to heart disease. I was raised in the Christian way of being, religion. I was raised in AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal Church. And even though, we talked about God and everything, it made God feel like God was out there. I was separated, and I had to do certain things for access to God. I had to live a certain way and pray and say these things on, because as Methodist, you go to church and you say the same thing over and over again, same thing. And I remember the day I was in service, church service, and I was saying, I can't even remember the name of the thing, but you say it every week. And it says, I believe this, I believe that, I believe this, and that's part of the whole dialogue. And I stopped, because it's like, you know what? I don't know if I really believe that. And that was like my first initiation into what my belief system was, as opposed to who I really was. It made me really start examining and questioning what my relationship to God was. What did I really believe? And so this journey that I've been on, and I'm sure everybody on this call has had a similar kind of journey of self-realization, of self-discovery, especially with the year 2020, when we had so much time to ourselves, just questioning and wondering what this whole thing is all about and what my role is in it and my place. Our divinity, our individual divinity of being a part of a whole. Apostle Creed. Thank you, Charmaine. Yes. That's the thing that was being repeated every week in service. Apostles' Creed. Yes, I remember. Thank you. Um, so our divinity is now coming to the forefront. I think this quiet time that we've had in 2020 and now in 2021, with being locked down and shut in, and you know all the busyness slowing down has had us a chance to become more introspective. And with that, your spirituality has to come into play, and your connection to everything has to come into play. And so this is a prime opportunity to become more in tune with what your heart is doing and what your heart is saying and what's coming through, as the form of inspiration through your heart, because your heart is the connection, your connection to the divine. And so when we think about our hearts, hopefully after this presentation, you'll not think of it as just a pump, or not even just a seat of emotion, but actually a transducer, an energy transducer, the energy of God coming through you and then being presented in form as your desires. So can we go to the slides, John Carl? Thank you. So energetic heart is what I'm going to speak on now. And this, the heart's electrical field is 60 times stronger in amplitude and activity than the brain's. So if you think about how much electricity is going through the brain through the course of the day, I mean, it's amazing the amount of electricity, electrical signals are going through the brain. The heart is 60 times more than that. And then it also can be detected on anywhere on the skin surface by the EKG, ECG. So your heart is all encompassing and extending, because this field that is generated by the heart can extend up to 9 feet at any given point in time. And next slide. And so the heart mimics the earth mimics the heart. Who came first, the chicken or the egg? All of it probably was formed at the same time. So the electromagnetic field around the earth is similar to the electromagnetic field around each and every one of us that is generated by our heart. And so everything is connected. If you think about vortexes, I have all these vortexes on here. You have a galaxy, you have hurricanes, you have how nautilus shells are formed, plants, and how they form. We have our own internal vortex as well. And our heart was formed as a result of a vortex. The energy, vortex energy coming in to that arterial tube in the fetus at day 21 and causing this twisting and turning for 28 days until day 49 when the heart is finally formed. So the heart is not formed in the fetus as it's like a little bud, little heart that grows into a big heart. It actually starts out as this straight tube, straight arterial tube. And it's day 21, this energy comes in, this twisting energy comes in and starts twisting and turning that tube until it forms the heart at day 49. And that twisting energy is the vortex. Our vortex, we are formed, our heart is formed as a result of a vortex. Our blood moves in our body in the form of a vortex. I spoke up earlier of how the heart can decelerate the vortex, stop it mid space in the ventricle, and then accelerate it back out of the body. The aorta, which is the largest artery in the body, actually has something called rifling. Rifling is like this twisting, turning pattern in the vessel. If you think about a gun or a rifle, there's this twisting or turning in the barrel of the gun that makes the bullet spin as it goes out. And so we have this rifling in our arteries that maintains the integrity of the vortex that is generated by our hearts so that it can move with speed and accuracy. Also, if you think about vortexes, and the power of a vortex. Just think about a tornado, how it moves and how it just, how much energy is produced and how fast it moves and how destructive it can be with this tight, compact spinning. Well, the heart takes this vortex, stops it on a dime, and then turns it back in the other direction. So our heart is very powerful in the movement of vortexes, either clockwise or counterclockwise. I think that's amazing, the amount of energy that is expended to take one vortex and move it in another way. A lot of energy. And so that's why we can create this huge amount of field just based on the energy that's produced, based on that simple but very dynamic movement of stopping a vortex in one direction and then having it go in another direction. And it does this with every beat of our hearts. Any questions or any comments on anything that I've said so far?
Jewa, I'm curious about why medical professionals don't speak of the heart in the way that you do, and how it's received when someone like you and others that have learned in the way that you have learned about the heart um, in this multidimensional way, like how you're received in the medical field.
Oh boy.
That's probably heartbreaking too, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because throughout history, in relation to the heart, there's been different interpretations of how the heart is and how it operates and what it does. And throughout history, whoever was on the leading edge, the first one through the door is the one gets hacked up. Whenever you're making a breakthrough, the first one through the making the breakthrough, whenever you're breaching a stronghold of ideas, the first one through is the one that usually gets hacked. And so there are a lot of people who've gotten hacked up for sharing or saying things other than what the status quo is. And so I can't answer as to why that is. It's not like the information's not there.
Mhm.
I guess it would just have to be one of, just being willing to share the information so that more people know.
Right.
I think that's what I have been doing, is to share the information so more people know, and not really try to worry about why it's happening and why it hasn't happened so far.
Mhm.
I think that's the stance that I want to take on that, because I could not really understand why.
Yeah.
you
What
know.
I think about is what the possibilities are for a really true healing and recovery for people if all of this was shared with patients, other than just what's physiologically happening with the heart in the move for surgery. Surgery's needed. Like people, um, have to get them so that they can survive. But I'm like, the integration of that action or the actions on the continuum, as well as what you're sharing, would make a big difference. If a doctor is asking you questions about like what's going on in your life that might be contributing to this condition, other than what you eat and whether you're exercising, but what's eating you and what's going on with you that has your heart be in the state that it's in. So thank you for, just bringing groundbreaking information, because I've seen a lot of heart presentations and none are like this. None. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's why I do these presentations. That's why I wrote the book. And I encourage those people who want me to share even more to let me know, and I'll be happy to share. It's just, it took me several years to write the book. One, because I started it as a result of a lecture that I did back in 2012. The book didn't come out until 2018, so 6 years. And I had all the material. It took me a while to have the courage to put it out. I'm just going to put it up as bluntly, as plainly as I could. I was kind of scared of, putting it out there. I didn't know whether or not, the whole host of things came up. I'm not a cardiologist, so who am I to put out this information? Whole lot of inner chatter, as you can imagine, with doing something that's considered outside of your level of expertise. But as a chiropractor, we're known as, bone doctors or joint doctors or whatever, but chiropractors are actually nervous system specialists. And so since the heart is part of the nervous system, I consider it within my realm. So that's how I got through the door of justification, past that resistance in order to share and get it out. I had to do a little inside trick for myself in order to get past myself, in order to share this. We have a hand raised, Shahupete. I hope I'm saying that right.
No, Sahu Speed.
Okay, Sahu Speed. Thank you.
All right. So Sahu Speed, if you can unmute.
Yeah, great day, everyone. Thank you for this information. This is wonderful. I wanted to know about people that have, what do you call it when they get things put in their heart, or they have, how does this whole piece affect them, the energies that they're feeling? Sometimes people get heart transfers or from other people. So that aspect, the aspect of getting, I don't know what you call it, sorry, but they get something put in their heart to keep their heart ticking. Those two things, to get a transfer or the other piece, what effect does that have on them? And also the heart itself, when you take someone else's heart, you use someone else's heart, like those two things, like what's going on? How does that work? Like, what do you have to say about all that? Thank you.
Right. Yeah, this pacemaker. And, the whole idea of a pacemaker is to have it beat at a steady beat. It's like almost like a metronome kind of thing. And so if one of the latest discoveries about heart health is that this steady beat, when we think of, my heart beats at 60 beats per minute, it's like, is that 1 beat per second, to make it 60 beats per minute? But it's actually a variance in the amount of space between each heartbeat. And that's called heart rate variability. So you may have a beat at 1 second, and then the next one is at 0.8, and the next one is at 1.5. There's a variability between each heartbeat. And the more variability between the heartbeat, the healthier the heart. So with this pacemaker being like a metronome, it's really adding a rigidity to your system. It is not the responsiveness that is present as a feedback loop that the heart has with the rest of the body. The variability is a result of the heart sensing what's going on with the rest of the body and adjusting accordingly. So that rigidity is introduced with a pacemaker. As far as the heart transplants are concerned, there have been studies or anecdotal stories about people who have had heart transplants and then start having cravings that are not their own. They have cravings of the person's whose heart it was before. It's like food cravings or, inclinations. And so there's an imprint on your heart based on who you are, because your heart is the seat of the soul. The transplant, you're transplanting not just a physical entity, but you're also transplanting some metaphysical aspects as well when you do a heart transplant.
Yeah, so both things. The first one, the pacemaker, and if the universe is creative, right, and the mind, and we're in the mind of all. So to have the pacemaker not have that, it almost like an arrhythmia, but some kind of a creative, organic kind of beat. That makes sense to me. If you're going to do something like that, it makes sense because, the calendar, it just makes sense every day. The sun, or the light of the sun, it's different every single day. So why wouldn't the pacemaker reflect at least that,
Right.
at least that, or something like that. And then the transference. and then the person who receives the heart, it's almost like there's a ritual that needs to be done for whoever gave it, a ritual for who gets it. And then what psychological difference is that going to make? How do you work with that? Because it's not coming from you. And I mean, it's just a whole big piece that needs to be like brought in terms of, it's like you got a new mate in your life or something. You got a heart. You have to like, you gotta somehow blend, combine, be open to, be receptive to this new entity that's within you that you're trying to mate with and restore and balance your life with, like something, like that's
Yeah, I do.
process. I'm like, whoa, that's really, really deep, really deep. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, there's a lot with that. There's a lot with that. Charmaine, you were saying, no, I'm sorry, Shawnee, you were asking about, why things take so long for, why is this not shared? I mean, there's something else that has been shared recently within the past couple of decades about this arterial tube and how it forms the heart. And there was this medical doctor that, learned how to unravel it so that this original tube is the result. And it was like this big thing, people couldn't believe that this was actually how the heart was formed and everything else, even though there was evidence of it. So there's always quote unquote things being discovered that are old and being brought to the forefront that are seen as new to the community that may take some time for them to recognize on a wide scale and for people, the general public, to know on a broader scale. But just keep sharing what you know, what you learned, from this with other people. And that's how this new information gets propagated and how we can turn the tide on our knowledge about the heart so that we can primarily have a better connection with our spiritual selves and more balance in our lives so that heart disease is no longer an issue anymore. Teresa has her hand raised.
I don't know why. It's really meant for me to have this conversation with you. My granddaughter has a pacemaker, and she's had one. And thank you, Sister S. I can't remember her name sometime, but
Y'all
my
better
granddaughter
cut that
has
out. Sahu
my,
speed. I'm gonna get all of y'all. Sahu speed. Thank you.
I
Go
love
ahead.
you, baby. My granddaughter has a pacemaker, and she's had one since she was a baby. And at one time the pacemaker wasn't working properly, and she happened to be with me during that day, and they said that the pacemaker had shut down. um I was just wondering, like, what is it that I could do as a grandmother that could assist her father, to make sure that she's okay, and that she's adjusting well, with the pacemaker, because she got a new pacemaker last year in July. And sometime sometime I'm worried about her, how the pacemaker is going because of it, stopping before. So
Right. Well, the first thing is to stop worrying
okay, okay,
because just energetically, that can be felt.
okay,
Um, and that energy is a low vibration. You want
okay,
to
okay,
start um, by keeping your vibration high
okay,
um, because you are affected by vibration. And vibration through us is how we're feeling. So depression would be a very low vibration, and
mhm,
bliss and joy would be a very high vibration. And then
okay,
you have different feelings that are in between those two ends of that scale. And so you want to keep your vibration high and help her keep her vibration high. I think that would be the thing. So if you are all around her worrying about her, that's heaviness that you're adding to um, the atmosphere
thank you.
and her environment. not necessary. And so you would want to just be in gratitude, show how much you love her, not from a worrying space, not loving from a kind of space, but loving in a appreciation kind of space. Um, don't want to get that confused, because people think, "Oh, I love her," and you're not. You're doing this kind of hovering, quote unquote, protecting thing. That's not loving. It's actually suffocating and diminishing. So appreciation, gratitude, love. Those are the three key things that you could do for your granddaughter to help her out. Just appreciate her, love her, and be in gratitude that she's in your life, and just experience her and just enjoy. That's the thing that you can do. The best thing that you can do for her.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go back to the slides.
We have the transition point at 7:56. So before we dive back in, we can just acknowledge that there are some in the space that may have to transition off the line because of work responsibilities or other things they have to do, parents homeschooling their children. We just want to acknowledge you, and then also, Jiwa, for you to take a moment to acknowledge them, say goodbye, and then offer ways in which they can be in touch with you. So some of that is all of it has been put in the chat, but you can say something if you wish to the community that has to go.
Okay. All right, so again, my name is Dr. Jewa Lea. I'm the author of the book Core Perfectum, What You Don't Know About Your Heart May Be Killing Your Life. And I thank you so much for joining me this morning. And I, hope that you have a great and productive day, wherever you are going. If you want to get in touch with me, my website is drjewa.com, and it's spelled DRJEWA.com. My email is info@drjewa.com, DRJEWA.com. Also, I have courses that I'm offering, and there's a 15% discount with the code WUE at my store, and my store is store.drjewa.com. So feel free to reach out to me, ask any questions through my email. I'm offering a class on my book. Core Perfectum is a 5-part class. There have been a couple of people on here who have taken the class and got great feedback from it, so I'm offering it again. And then I also have my Whole Heart 101 class, which is going to be for the rest of the year. It starts this month, and we're going to deep dive into what it is to live wholeheartedly. And so we know how to live physically, and we have an idea about our spiritual nature or our relation to spirit, but we need to integrate that in order to live wholeheartedly. And so it's an experiential class. It's not about lecture. It's about you experiencing what it's like to live wholeheartedly. And so I'm offering that class in my store. There's a 15% discount. It's called Whole Heart 101. And so if you sign up for that, we'll be in touch. So have a great day, everybody who is leaving now at 8 o'clock. And I look forward to seeing you soon. All right. So this is what I was speaking of earlier about the chakras, the 7 chakras. And you see there's 7 of them, and right dead in the center is the heart chakra, the 4th chakra. And so we have 3 below, which are physically oriented chakras. And chakra is known as a wheel. Chakra means wheel. It's a wheel of energy that is moving through the body. And each one of those wheels of energy has a different energy signature. And so the root chakra is known for survival, physicality. The sacral chakra is known for creativity. Solar plex chakra is known for generating will. So you want to get something done, you tune into your solar plexus chakra. The heart chakra is the intersection of spirit and matter. It's where we can physically manifest our heart's or our soul's desire through our heart. And then we have our throat chakra, which is speaking our ultimate truth. The third eye chakra is which actually seeing with true vision, as opposed to with physical sight. And then the crown chakra is the just the gateway to the higher gateway, I should say, towards our divinity, the portal towards the divinity. If you look at if you fold the top three onto the bottom three, you notice that 7 lines up with 1, 2 with 6, 3 with 5, with 4 at the center. So the heart is also known as the pivot. So it's known as the green door, the pivot, and there's a whole lot of other names that that it has in relation to this energetic quality that the heart has in relation to the rest of the body. And so Anahatapuri, next slide, please. Anahatapuri is the name of the heart chakra, and it means unstruck, unhurt, unbeaten. Now, if you think about the human experience, how many of those things apply? Unstruck, unhurt, unbeaten. You would say not really. So the Anahatapuri, unstruck, unhurt, unbeaten, is basically the recognition of our divine self, which is unstruck, unhurt, unbeaten. This is the introduction to that energy along the chakra line. Is the first mention of it, that we have the spiritual connection, the spiritual nature. And then from there, we are tapping into it through what we're speaking, through the heart chakra, what we're seeing through the third eye chakra, and what we're experiencing through the crown chakra. And so this wheel-like vortex of energy is taking place in all the chakras. So unconditional love, equilibrium, balance, that's what this heart chakra is all about, balance. And so heart disease being the number 1 disease in the Western world is no surprise, because if we're balanced more on survival and physicality, we're focused on more on physicality, then you can see that there's an imbalance. And so if the heart is about balance, any kind of imbalance would cause it to be not at ease or diseased. Next. So from a sacred geometry perspective, I found the heart to be really, really, really interesting. And sacred geometry is important in that you can look at geometric forms and you can contemplate them in a still moment and see how the universe works in this form. And so sacred geometry is the opportunity to understand how the universe is working by examining examining a geometric form. And so the seemingly common mathematical activity can become a discipline for intellectual and spiritual insight. And so we're just going to do a little bit of a dive into the sacred geometry of the heart, because I think what you'll find will be of interest. And so now we have this cube. And the cube is known as Earth in sacred geometry. And the pyramid is also known as is known as fire in sacred geometry. And the pyramid, fire in the middle, in sacred geometry terms, is known. The heart is associated with the pyramid because it's the fire in the middle. It's the pyramid. So pyre means fire, mid in the middle. So pyramid is associated with the heart. But I want to talk about this cube and the square root of 3 for a moment. Okay, so if you look at a cube, unit cube, and if you look at how the heart sits in your chest, if you look at any diagram of how the heart sits in the chest, it looks like it's sitting at 45 degrees. And 45 degrees on a 2-dimensional plane is like this diagonal. like a diagonal like that. Okay. But the heart is a three-dimensional structure. It does not sit at 45 degrees. It actually sits at the square root of 3 in a unit cube. So Pythagorean's theorem of, how to find a diagonal would be the square root of the sides. So you have the length, the width, and the height. So the square root of 1 plus 1 plus 1 would be the square root of 3. And that's how we get this diagonal. So if you can turn to me for a second, John Carl, I want to show this. Okay, so this is what your heart looks like when it's sitting at the square root of 3. This green line is the length, the direction of your heart when it's sitting in a unit cube in your chest right here. See me? I'm getting my tippy toes for a second. This is how it sits in your chest at the square root of 3. Now, the square root of 3 has a significance in sacred geometry terms. Square root of 3 is known as the ratio that of finding 1 point. So if you have 3 points, you can find the third. You can find the result. I'm just sorry. If you have 3 points, you can find the result. So it's like, if I know this point, this point, and this point, I can get there. Okay, and GPS is formed on sacred geometry. You know where your points are. You can figure out where you need to go. And so the heart is actually demonstrating that I'm able to form what I create in my heart because I know what is coming through. And so if we go to the next slide, the square root of 3 is also known as the Vesica Pisces. Okay, so the Vesica Pisces is the intersection of spirit and matter in sacred geometry terms. So if the left-hand circle is noted as spirit and the right-hand circle is known as matter, the intersection of that, or the sign of the fish, that small intersection in between, is known as the Vesica Pisces. All right. That Vesica Pisces is also known as the Christ. And so the Christ is not a man that was born in a manger in far as biblical terms, as the Christ is really an energy. The Christ, as in sacred geometry terms, predates by hundreds of years the Christ that we see depicted in the Bible. And so the Christ is the intersection of spirit and matter. And so the Christ that's depicted in the stories in the Bible is a demonstration of what it looks like to be the intersection of spirit and matter. All the miracles that he performs, all the things that he does is a demonstration of how the Christ operates or can operate. And it's basically an instruction manual for us because we are the Christ. We have the Christ sitting in our chest and in the form of our hearts. The heart sits at the square root of 3. The Christ is known as the square root of 3. And so when we look at the power that the heart generates and all the things that it does, we can see that it's doing more than moving blood and doing emotions. It's actually an energy transducer. And so we're taking the energy of the divine and creating on a moment-to-moment basis through our thoughts. We create our lives. Through inspiration, we have inspiration to create physical things and art and music and buildings and furnitures and cities. And all this is coming through our hearts. Veronica has her hand raised.
Good morning. This is so powerful. You know, it makes me think, you know, having been a Christian and then going to Unity, that when you think about the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the miracles that he performed, and that the woman with the issue of blood had to touch his garment, but what you're saying is she just needed to come in his presence because his heart energy was so vast. And on a metaphysical plane, it's like our heart energy could be so vast.
Our heart energy is so vast, not could be, is.
Is so that we
It
could
is.
extend healing to anybody if we realized it.
Well, not even that, but we can heal ourselves. I think that's even more important to understand. It's the ownership that
Yeah.
comes with understanding who we truly are. You know, there's always a tendency of how can I use this outwardly? But the focus, I would think, would want to be one of internal. What can I do internally to correct anything that needs to be done? How can I correct my relationships by tapping into my heart? How can I create more abundance? How can I create more creativity by tapping into the inspiration that comes through my heart? And so just understanding where all that comes from and where that all resides, I think is really important. And understanding that, and I'm going to say it, and y'all can do whatever you want, but the whole idea of Christ as metaphor.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Christ is metaphor for the our potential as the divine.
This is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Phenomenal.
And the next hand is raised.
Lisa, but I'd like to save my question for when you're finished with this part.
Okay. And Amal has her hand raised.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Jewa. So let me understand this. So the Vesica Pisa, PC, is the Christ seed, and that is in sacred geometry, that's the description of the heart, or that's another way of thinking of the heart?
I would say the other way around. That the heart is the Vesica Pisces and the heart are the same energy.
Okay.
It's the intersection of spirit and matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Well, then I will ask my question now. Can someone die from what is known as a broken heart, i.e. an extreme place of sadness or despair?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. There's actually a medical term called broken heart syndrome. And it's a phenomenon where, and it happens mostly in women, it's a phenomenon where the bottom of the heart actually balloons out. And so that the blood and the efficiency of the heart managing those vortexes is compromised. And so the heart is not moving blood as well as it could. And it can feel like a heart attack. If your underlying health condition is not very robust, you can die from broken heart syndrome. However, once broken heart syndrome, once the condition or the reasons for the condition go away, the heart goes back to its normal form and without any damage as what would happen in a regular heart attack. And so the heart goes back to its normal form. And like I said, it usually happens in women in highly emotional, depressed states. That bottom of the heart can balloon out, and it's known as takisubo, which means octopus pot, because it looks like an octopus pot that Japanese people use to do fish for octopus, or broken heart syndrome.
Yeah. I wanted to, this is Shawnee, and Nefertiti, I see you have a question, so we'll come back. I think about the training that I have as a psychotherapist, and in that work, we talk about complicated grief. Um, and so when I think of elders, like all these things were coming to my mind as you were speaking, how an elder can transition quickly, especially if they experience the death of their mate. And someone said it in the thread earlier that a relative died of a broken heart because of the loss of love of their mate. So I can see how they go pretty quickly because they already are up in age, and maybe the blood and the heart, as an organ has been in your body a long time, it's worn down. And so if you have prolonged experiences of deep sadness and grief or complicated grief, that you die quickly because of all of this imperfect storm. It's not a perfect
Mhm. Right, right.
of those things together. Um, and it's fascinating, like what we can do if we normalize talking about grief and our pain and didn't stuff it and hide it and isolate. We would free ourselves up of the conditions of the heart that we manifest. And over time, the buildup, I could just only imagine how the organ gets impacted, because I know how I get impacted when I'm deeply sad. It's almost like a state of paralysis.
Yes.
I can still be emotion, but internally I'm in turmoil. So I just wanted to once again just thank you for the expansion of what I already know, but integrating these other pieces.
Yes. Yeah, I've known quite not say quite a few, a couple of people who've died of heart disease, of broken heart syndrome. Um, One was a couple, elderly couple. The wife died first, and then the husband died um, on the day of the first anniversary of her death. Um, the other one, same thing, married couple, wife died first, husband died a few months later. Um, and that heaviness that comes with a broken heart is happening, energetically, but also it's happening physically. Your heart is not pumping efficiently, which leads me to this demonstration real quick. For those of you who have a washcloth, I asked you to bring washcloth. I have a little tissue. If you don't, you can do it like this. Your heart, we say that our heart beats, it's pulsating. It looks like it's beating. It looks like it's pulsating, but it's actually an illusion of function. Your heart is actually twisting, and it's twisting so that the top and the bottom are twisting in opposing fashions. So when it twists together, your hands approximate, and then when it unwinds, it goes further apart. So my top hand is the base of the heart, which is the flat part, and then my bottom hand is the apex of the heart, which is the pointy part. When they twist, this is what they're doing every time that it's beating. It's doing this motion. Oh, where am I? Okay, right here. There you go. It's doing this. So your hands approximate, hands go further apart. Hands approximate. So the fibers are shortening, chambers are shortening, chambers are elongating. And so from the outside, it's looked like it's pulsating, but it's actually twisting. Your heart is actually twisting. The top is twisting in one direction, the bottom is twisting in another direction. And so when you have congestive heart failure, you hear people say, oh, the person's dying of congestive heart failure. This twisting motion has become compromised, especially at this bottom part, the apex is not twisting as efficiently as it's supposed to. So blood entering the ventricle or the bottom chamber of each part of the heart, the left side and the right side, instead of the blood stopping at mid space and then being redirected and up and out, it drops down to the apex, to the bottom of the heart. And so now this blood is starting to pool in the heart and become congested. And so the heart then starts forming, going into this pyramidal form. It starts becoming more blocky and looking more like a pyramid when it's going out of its regular spinning state, which I think is interesting because the spinning state is what started the heart, and now that it's not spinning efficiently, it's going back to its sacred geometry form of the pyramid, the solid form that you can see in stillness in its congestive state. I thought that was interesting. Any comments or questions on anything that I've said so far?
Yeah, Nefertiti shared that she had a question.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Good morning. I was in the process of typing it. Good morning. Thank you so much for all of the information. My question was about pain under, especially for women, underneath the breast, underneath like the left breast. And if you had anything to say about, I know that like, I guess it could be heartburn or it could be a more serious heart condition. But I've had pain like that and I've gone to doctors and doctors haven't really said anything conclusive to me. They're like, oh, okay, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So energetically, I would look energetically as to what's happening. How are you feeling when the pain is going on or immediately preceding the pain? What is your emotional state? Are you worried about something on a deeper level, not on a surface level? Are you putting on good face, but worrying about something else underneath? Because what will come to the fore is your subconscious thoughts. Your body will show what you're thinking subconsciously, through physical ailments. And so if you're having heart problems, but on the outside you look like you're happy and you got it all together, underneath is telling the true story of what's happening. And so subconsciously there's maybe anxiety, frustration, depression, worry, some kind of negative emotion that's causing the physical ailment. And so I would look at, how am I feeling and what am I really feeling? And just go inside and think on that and address that. Because all healing takes place internally. All healing takes place internally.
Thank
You're welcome.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I know we just have a few minutes left, but I wanted to just share a couple other slides as far as the chestahedron is concerned. So the chestahedron is the seven-sided form that was discovered by Frank Chester. And there's a whole story that goes into this, but I won't get into it right now. If you want to know more about it, we can discuss it later in my book discussion that I have offered or in Whole Heart 101. But the seven-sided form is like the archetypal form for the heart in sacred geometry terms. And so on the right-hand side, you can see just the edges of that form. So if you go to the next slide, if you take that form and you spin it, you can see that it forms a bell. So you have in stillness, what that form looks like. And then on the left side, you have the spinning form and it forms a bell. And so that's what the archetypal shape of our heart looks like. And go to the next slide. If you take that wire form that just showed all the sides and blew a bubble into it, it will form this shape right here on this red shape right here. And that's known as the minimal surfaces form of the heart in sacred geometry terms. Since nothing is in nature appears in straight lines, when you form a bubble in that shape, form a bubble in that form, it shows you its true organic shape. Okay. And so if you spin it at square root of 3, it will form the vortexes that form the left and right ventricle. And that's what's being shown here. So when you spin it, you can see at the top picture, there's this water that's flowing away from that spinning. That if you took a cast of that form, it would be the same as the left and right ventricle. So it's just basically reinforcing the whole idea that the heart was formed as a result of vortex motion, that the heart keeps moving at a vortex, that it had to be at square root of 3 or roughly 36 degrees in order to form that vortex. If you took that same form and put it at 45 degrees, none of this would form. So it has it's mathematical, mathematically precise in what it's doing. You know, the square root of 3 is the square root of 3, 36 degrees. And that's what you would get as far as what the result of spinning that form is, how the left and right ventricle are formed as well. Next slide. And so I'm taking liberties with this one. Okay. So there's a relief on the ceiling of Dendera, and it's the relief of the entity known as Mut. And she is eating the sun and then giving birth to the sun. And that's the cycle of a day. If you look at the rays of the sun, they're not like straight lines on most of the reliefs that you see in Egypt. This definitely has a certain shape and form, these rays. And these rays are shining down on the entity of Hathor. If you see that little face that looks like a cow with the ears and everything, Hathor is known as the goddess of love in ancient Egyptian mysticism. And so if we go to the next slide, you can see that this bell shape is really, 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 really similar to the bells that are being birthed by this entity. And so what I took from it, my interpretation of it is that these are souls that are being shined down into the earth plane from this entity. And these souls go and find these spinning cups or spinning bells, go and find a fetus at day 21 and start spinning and forms the human heart. How many of you have seen this movie Pixar movie Soul? It's a similar concept. The soul is going and is dropping into an entity and living out its life purpose. My idea is that this energy of the heart is doing the same thing for us. It comes in at day 21 and starts spinning this little tube in this little fetus, and all the properties that come with that energy, the personality and everything else is coming in. The Christ energy is coming into that entity at that point in time. And at day 49, the heart is formed. And we have that entity in our chest, and it's our communication with the divine. And so that's my interpretation of how the heart energy is formed from an energetic point of view. And I have no collaboration with it. Maybe one or two other people that I've done research with. But I'm taking this and running with it. Okay. Next slide. And so we have this chestahedron shape again. And so the shape on the right-hand side looks very familiar. It looks like what is formed with our heart, the symbol for our heart. And what that symbol is actually an inversion of the sculpture on the left. So an inversion would be this is the same as taking a glove that's on your hand and taking it off, and the glove comes off inside out. So this is an inside out representation of the figure on the left, and it forms the symbol of the heart as we know it. Kind of cool. Any comments or questions I know we're near the end. I had so much more, but that's all we can do today. Any comments or questions from anyone?
Yes, this is Amal. When we were talking, someone was mentioned. Oh, wait a minute, let me get on camera. Okay, I look like I've been in bed. Anyway, someone was mentioning about healing, and you mentioned you have to heal. You should heal. You should heal yourself first. What came to my mind is that slide where you saw the aura of the individual, and everything inside that aura is what's emanating from your heart. Now, if that heart is not loving and pure in praise and gratitude, that aura you carry with you into your spaces in life, and you affect the people around you. So in order, you have to heal first before you're able to even think about stepping into a space and raising the vibration so that other people around you can heal.
Right.
So that was really, really strong for me when you were mentioning that. And I thought I'd throw that in.
Yep, it's always, you start at home first.
Yep.
You put your mask on before you put the mask on the person next to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And healers that start out without having self-healing and they go out and say, I'm a healer. I don't know.
Right. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Yes, definitely. So in order to be in tune with your heart, you definitely want to tap into the higher frequency, higher vibration feelings of love, appreciation, gratitude, joy. And so I tell people in my practice that, if you're having difficulty, you're feeling down in the dumps, the easiest way to move from a low vibration to a high vibration is to focus on the things that you're thankful for. It puts you in a state of gratitude. And so you can't be loving and hateful at the same time. They're diametrically opposed. You can't feel happy and sad at the same time. When you start feeling appreciation, you can't feel sad because appreciation is on the other side of that spectrum. And so just the simple act of noticing what you're thankful for, put yourself in a state of gratitude, that is a way of moving from one side to the other. So stop complaining, start appreciating, start understanding that you are divine and that divinity is not outside of you. Start seeing other people as divine and just having a human experience. Their personality is not their signature. The Christ in them is their signature. Personality is just a vehicle to help them through this experience, as we know as life. So, as coined in the spiritual community that I am a part of, see and be only God. That is one of the foundational thoughts that come with understanding that you have the Christ within you, and so does everybody else, despite on how they're acting or what you're seeing. There is Christ in everyone. And as soon as you are able to tap it within yourself, you can start experiencing it in other people. All right. So we have the slides for wrapping up, because I know that we're over time. Shawnee, should be wrapping up now?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I have a special offer for all of you on the Woo community. You receive a 15% discount on my upcoming class, Whole Heart 101, where we do a deep dive in this material that I share today, and plus a whole lot more. The class starts at the end of this month. So if you want more information on that, you would go to store.drjewa.com. Okay?
Doc, before we move forward, I don't want to be dismissive of our Facebook community. sometimes, with the translation of desire to ask questions, it just gets missed. So, Charmaine, you said that there was a question from Facebook that we missed.
Yes, there is a question, and it is from Sienna Robinson. She wants to know about the effects of the heart due to collective trauma or consciousness.
Oh, great question.
The effect of the heart due to collective trauma
And or consciousness.
or consciousness. Well, the heart is definitely affected. Vibrationally, it would have to be. And so, but I think what also needs to be understood is that, and let me make sure that I'm understanding when you say collective trauma, you're talking about trauma from other people or the world or the community.
I think it's probably a combination of those things,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
Black, what
Okay.
they,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So all healing has to take place within, whether it's collective or not. And so you have to start tapping into the fact that how you're holding your energy has an impact not only on yourself, but on the world in general. And so the responsibility would be to keep your vibration high. And I can't say that more than enough. You had to keep your vibration high. Even when we are addicted, and all of us are, to negative emotion, we have our drug of choice. We have our biochemical drug of choice that is produced by negative emotion, whether it be resentment, judgment, anger, anxiety. We have our drug of choice. And so overcoming that drug of choice and being aware that we are addicts to negative emotion would be a huge step in reversing the collective consciousness of this planet. But it ultimately is our responsibility to take responsibility for our energetic signature, our energetic footprint. And in turn, we will influence those around us, and then they in turn can do the same thing by our example. So you have to be the example. And the only way you can be an example is by implementing.
Can I add something, Dr. Jewa? I'm thinking about the 100th monkey syndrome. That as we heal, and critical mass. That's the word I want to use. As we become critical mass in our raising our vibration and our thinking, that then it'll eventually affect the world. It'll eventually affect the world, like you said. So it's our responsibility to change, to heal ourselves, and then each individual takes that responsibility on. And before you know it, we've got the 100th person with that intent, and that, with having achieved that, I should say, and it'll affect the whole world. Everything will just flip.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like Amal said.
And
thank you, Amal.
before we move to the completion again, the last few things that you said in response to Sienna's question are intriguing to me, and I would love just to have a whole session about that. There are some that would push back up against what you just shared about us being addicted to negative energy and process. Like folks will deny that. They're like, no, I only want joy. But a dear friend years ago, and I've probably said this in the space before, and I was kind of shocked when he said it because he was directing it towards me, that we can sometimes become manufacturers of our own misery. And just what you shared aligns with what that declaration was. I've since embraced that that is true, and that I have that, some part of that in me. We all do. But what you just said is like, dag, like we're conditioned to crave and be addicted to low vibrational things happening. And to me, that's so big that COVID-19, the 9/11 incident, mass murder and genocide, school shootings, that we give all this attention to it and we're looking for it and clicking through the channels to find it. that, it's the law of attraction. We manifest the very thing that we say we don't want to deal with and have happen to us. And it just gives us a level of responsibility and accountability that we aren't taught to take on, and that we don't want to have, because to think that we attracted a Trump, or we, just any of it, to think that we contribute to that is just it's a shock to the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our conscious thoughts are only 5% of our thoughts. 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. And a lot of those thoughts are not just belief systems and judgments that we've accumulated over this lifetime, but over our soul's lifetime. And I come from the school of thought that this is not my first go around on earth, that my soul has been here several times before, and I've learned various lessons each time it's been here. And so all that conditioning of negative emotion, and then just basically how we view our worlds. Our world is based on judgment, comparison, and acquisition for security. And so anything that has to do with any of that kind of energy is one of negativity, because it's always about, how can I be better than somebody else? How can I win, which means someone else has to lose? How can I avoid being a loser? I mean, it's just a whole dynamic that we are entrenched in, that we don't even realize that we're entrenched in, because we've been indoctrinated at such a young age as to how the world works, how life is. And so, but negative emotion, like you said, Shawnee, that's a whole nother thing that we could talk about, a whole nother session.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, the true source of our heart, dis-ease.
Yeah, I mean, stop complaining. How much? Okay, I just want y'all to notice, just for today, how often you complain. And complaining could be just like, that's a complaint.
I just did that. Oh, goodness gracious.
That is a complaint. So, don't get fooled by the intensity, or the size, or the subtlety of the complaint. Complaint is complaining, and it has an energy to it. And so we really want to start understanding and tapping into, what we're feeling on a moment to moment basis.
Ashe. For that. Thank you so much for, putting the extra time to share. And Sienna, thank you for activating this conversation and this thought about a session around that. Really powerful stuff. All right, John, we can proceed. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So you want to get in contact with me. This is the way you can do it by phone. My telephone number is 301-388-8088. My website is drjewa.com. My email is info@drjewa.com, and Jewa is spelled Jewa. So drjewa.com. My store is store.drjewa.com. So that's how you can look at some of the things that I have. I do have a membership site that's free. At the store, you can join and be a part of the Whole Heart Vibe Tribe. So try saying that fast 3 times. Whole Heart Vibe Tribe. And so you get updates on what's going on. You get insight on the classes that I'm offering, and I do some things that are free. I do some things that require a fee. You get access to all that as a member inside and ahead of the general public knowledge of that. I'm having trouble figuring out words this morning. Sorry. Okay, so love offering. Love offering. So Stacy says, let's make it rain on Dr. Jewa, Dr. Lee. Okay, so I accept. So in order to present a love offering, you would want to go to sowleadershipdevelopment@gmail.com. That's SOW leadershipdevelopment@gmail.com. At Cash App is $ Spirit of a Woman. Again, Cash App is $ Spirit of a Woman. And the code, can you read that for me? Because I have something over the last, oh, here we go. Code is hashtag 253JL. Hashtag 253JL. That's the code to offer, that will make sure that whatever love offering you get in there will be put in, directed to me. 253, 253, 253. Okay. Thank you, Stacy. 253JL. All right. And I thank you in advance for whatever love offering and donation that you do offer. I appreciate it. So we have some speakers coming up. The next is tomorrow, Wednesday, February 3rd. We have Sahu Speed.
Sahu Speed.
Did I say it right? Okay, yay. Okay, Sahu Speed. She's going to be speaking of Hands That Heal, Part 3, Learning to Do You. And I'm sure that'll be a dynamic and wonderful presentation. That's tomorrow at 7 a.m. And then Thursday, February 4th, we'll be, the meeting will be facilitated by Ash Straw, and she'll be speaking on creating a commitment to continuity and integrity through ancient yogic wisdom. And so Ash will be back, and we look forward to seeing her on Thursday at 7 a.m. Again, I thank you for joining me this morning. It's been great seeing you. The Zoom schedule, for those who are unfamiliar with the Wake Up Everybody community, we have Zoom calls on Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays for 90 minutes. They start at 7 a.m. and it end at 8:30. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, it's 30 minutes from 7 a.m. to 7:30. You can also stream live on Facebook. And we thank you for your participation this morning. And so if you want to stay in touch, you can register at bit.ly/wake up movement. On Facebook, you can find us at bit.ly/WUE community. On Instagram is at Wake Up Everybody Virtual. On YouTube is bit.ly/WUE on YouTube. And finally, email is info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. This is all the different ways that you can stay in touch with the Wake Up Everybody community.
Thank you, Doc, so much. I want to acknowledge, unless I'm mistaken, Aura and Cynthia Peel, because we have more than one Cynthia in the space, but Aura, want to acknowledge you. I believe you're part of Dr. Jewa's community. I don't want to make assumptions.
Yeah.
So please do return. Her beauty, her light attracted you. And then because you're in this space, we've attracted you as well. And just want to invite you to return and be part of this community to co-create. And if you're interested in doing more as part of the community, we're always welcome to that. We want more facilitators if that's an interest, and also administrators, and of course, juicy community members to contribute and co-create all of the sessions that we do each morning, well, 5 days a week, from Sunday to Thursday. So thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting us in building out this community and having this conversation. So,
and Cynthia's on the West Coast, so she was up at 4 o'clock this morning to be here. So
commitment. That is commitment.
So yeah, Spirit woke me up, said get up. Just do it.
We all want Spirit to wake us up every day, please. So what we're going to do is what's customary for the Wake Up Everybody community in demonstration of our gratitude for what we've gotten and the gift that you have been, Dr. Jewa. So let's unmute ourselves and let's pour into her like she has poured into us. So much learning today. So unmute, please, and let's do it. I said
thank you, Auntie.
Thank you,
Thanks, Dr. Jewa.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work that you're doing.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
My heart is healing.
Receive all of this love.
I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Manifestation.
the truly,
replay. I'm gonna go
oh,
back and
every
listen
time
to
I
the
hear
love.
you,
replay.
it's something
Thank you,
new. Thank
sister,
Thank
you.
you
so
so
Thank
much.
much
you
for
This
for
was
all your love.
the
wonderful.
space that
Thank
you
you,
Really
thank
and
you,
appreciate
heart.
thank
you.
you. The science behind
Thank
it.
you.
Yes.
Thank
All
Thank
of it.
you.
you.
All of it. My heart is
The
full.
seed
I'm
of
really
You,
happy and
family, I
Christ.
love
grateful and
y'all. I
Wow,
really
wow, wow.
so
How
appreciate
focused
amazing.
today
How
on
really
how
Thank you
often
for
I can
being
that you
so
pray.
are
God will bring
said
my
powerful.
that.
Thank
vibration
you so
higher. Thank
Thank
you
you.
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Queen, we love
And
you.
Liza
Have a
Wonderful.
and
wonderful
And
day.
God's
everyone that's
work.
on here. We
Gratitude.
You're a
love you
goddess
all.
Forward.
and
What
we
you
love
are,
to
we have to
Stacy and
appreciate
spread the
you.
Aaron,
word
Miss
about the
Thank you
importance
so
of
Laura.
much.
our hearts.
Thank you,
Too
everyone
much
that's
emphasis on
here.
brain,
Thank
not enough
Mama
on heart.
Armand,
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
our
Everything.
God,
Thank you so
Tahuti.
much.
Amazing, and I
Thank you,
thank you.
everyone in
thank
Peace,
you.
Soul
love, and
Power. We love you.
namaste.